Mary had a little lamb.
The fault. We believe that all men are created equal.
To the magnificent mosaic that is America.
From radio beacon to radio beacon. I have a dream today. Change has come to America.
Believe it.
Knock, knock. Who's there?
It's a figment of your imagination.
Randi Rhodes Show.
Turn up your mind.
It's Friday, you bastards.
Secretary Kerry, I want to read part of your statement back to you. Instead of convening a kangaroo court, the president might want to talk with the educated adults he once trusted to fill his top national security positions. It sounds like you're questioning the credentials of the president's advisors currently, but I don't think we should question your credentials today. Isn't it true you have a science degree from Yale? What's that?
Bachelor of Arts degree.
Is it a political science degree?
Yes, political science.
So how do you get a Bachelor of Arts in a science?
Well, it's liberal arts education and degree. It's a bachelor.
Okay, so it's not really science. So I think it's somewhat appropriate that somebody with a pseudoscience degree is here pushing pseudoscience in front of our committee today. I want to ask you...
Are you serious? I mean, this is really serious happening here?
You know what? It is serious. You're calling the president's cabinet a kangaroo court. Is that serious?
I'm not calling his cabinet a kangaroo court. I'm calling this committee that he's putting together a kangaroo committee.
What are you saying, that he doesn't have educated adults there now?
I don't know who it has yet because it's secret.
Well, you said it in your testimony.
Why would he have to have a secret analysis of climate change?
Just for fun. Just for fun. I had to show you that. I know that made the Twitter rounds yesterday. We didn't get to it, but it's just hysterical. I mean, this here is a representative named Thomas Massie. Thomas Massie actually attended MIT, the Massachusetts Institute of Technology. Now, he has a degree in mechanical engineering. So did my dad. Okay, doesn't make him a climate scientist. Okay, just saying. But he said something. He thought that this was going to be like a zinger, you know, like a Wile E. Coyote moment, you know, with a giant magnet or something like this. And just like Wile E., he ended up ensnaring himself and then falling off a cliff. And then the magnet fell upon him. I mean, this was just so bizarre. We don't even speak the same language in this country anymore as sycophant Republicans do. This is just so unbelievable to me. Hey, Thomas Massie, John Kerry has a political science degree. Good thing he didn't wear a lab coat. Ooh, that would have been. He also has a, and I do too, a doctorate in jurisprudence, a JD. A Juris Doctorate doesn't make me able to give you a colonoscopy. I cannot administer, fentanyl to you. Do you know what I'm saying? I don't. What was this conversation? It was just so stupid. This is just so crazy. This is so unbelievable. Now, Massie does have a bachelor's and a master's degree in mechanical engineering, definitely science degrees, but he's not very good when it comes to political science. I guess it's more of a science than he thought it was. I don't know. But, listen here, note to everybody out there who's got a JD or a doctorate in psychology or a doctorate in social work, don't wear a lab coat because you'll confuse the Republicans. Okay, they'll expect you to like write prescriptions for them or some such crap. Anyway, that was just big fun. That was just big fun. Now, all of a sudden, we're back to this border thing is getting so out of control because Trump does not know what he's doing. I mean, you speak about people who don't know what they're doing. Why is Thomas Massie not concerned with the fact that since Trump has become president, we have a 12-year high of people coming to the border to ask for asylum? Why doesn't this bother Thomas Massie that the president of the United States doesn't know what he's doing and that he's metering people down at the border and we don't have enough judges down at the border to adjudicate people in order to find out whether or not they qualify for asylum or, they don't. And if they don't, you know what happens if they don't. And most people won't. But if they don't qualify for asylum, they're put on an airplane and they are sent back to their country. If they do qualify for asylum, then they can stay here with an ankle bracelet. You know what I mean? They can stay here and try and, work here or whatever or exist here. Now, what's really, really scary is a couple stories that came out about what Trump was doing. Trump was saying to his ICE, to the head of ICE, he was saying to the head of the Border Patrol as well, Kevin McLennan, I don't know his name yet because he's new, and they're all acting, and we haven't seen confirmation, and we haven't gotten to know or whatever. But apparently, Trump told the head of the CBP, the Border Patrol agency, Kevin, we'll call him McLennan, that if he would break the law by denying entry to asylum-seeking migrants, that if he would go to jail for breaking the law, Trump would pardon him. Can you believe? So you have a president conspiring to not uphold the laws. You have a president who is conspiring with other officials in the government to break the law. If that's not an impeachable offense, I don't know, Nancy. I'm not sure what to say to you today. Because, obviously we saw what we saw with Russia. We heard what we heard with Russia. We know about Comey being fired. We know what Barr testified to the other day. Barr is, starting this crazy talk, this Fox News talk in Congress. He's actually, floating this idea that Donald Trump was spied upon without one scintilla of evidence. And the whole thing's off the hook. Donald Trump is running around calling all his adversaries treasonous traitors. He's, calling anybody that disagrees with him somebody that needs to be jailed or killed. The penalty for treason is death. And now we find out that he has been in a conspiracy all along with the head of the Border Patrol to break the law, to deny the constitutional rights that apply to anybody who's in our country is a subject of our law. And you want that. You want anybody that's in America to answer to American law. You want that. And Donald Trump was saying, well, too bad, I don't like it, so go ahead and break the law. And if you get arrested or something happens to you, I promise you I will pardon you. That is corrupt intent. That is obstruction of justice. That is failing to uphold the law. That is a violation of the president's duty. I don't even know why this man bothered to take the oath. I really don't know why. He didn't bother to do anything else that's, normal. So why did he even take the oath if he knew damn well he wasn't going to uphold the oath? He wasn't going to execute the laws faithfully. He wasn't going to take care. He wasn't going to, respect the Constitution. None of it. It's all bizarre world. And this is on top of another sociopathic thing that the president did that we found out, I guess, late last night. It was published in, I think it was the Washington Post that first broke this story. And they told us last night that Donald Trump was, oh God, there's so much. There's something about, now I forget what it was. And it was really bad. That he wanted to take all the people that were in detention awaiting their hearings, and he wanted to transport them to Nancy Pelosi's district to begin with. And this is why it's sociopathic. Now, we all know this, okay? Immigrants are typically innocent people. We know that because the crime rate among native, people that are native-born Americans is much higher than in any immigrant community. That's just a fact. But Donald Trump has been portraying them as criminals and rapists and murderers, right? So if Donald Trump believes that these people are rapists and murderers and a danger to Americans, if he believes that, then why would he want to release them from detention and put them in a busy city like San Francisco if he isn't a revenge-getting sociopath? And now today, on top of that story, we find out that he's telling Customs and Border Patrol to break the law and violate the Constitution, and he will pardon them when they get when they go to jail. What?
All things Randi at RandiRhodes.com.
Go for launch.
Speaking truth to power, The Randi Rhodes Show.
And if you don't have a wall, and they all agree, you don't need drones. Drones, wonderful to have drones. But you don't have a wall, it's never going to happen. It's all never going to happen. Your border people are fantastic, Border Patrol. Your military, fantastic. I'm going to have to call up more military. But our military, don't forget, can't act like a military would act. Because if they got a little rough, everybody would go crazy. So our military can't act like they would normally act, or like, let's say, another military from another country would act.
Oh my God, he wants to turn us into a banana republic. Oh my God. All right, so Donald Trump has always wanted to shoot people either on Fifth Avenue, and now as president, he would like to shoot them at the border. And if there was any doubt in your mind when he said, but the military can't act like the military, like another country, they're just, then remember that he told Sean Hannity he was fantasizing out loud on that faux news thing, on that Fox News thing, which is the vowel movement away from what it does to the news and the Constitution, my friends. He was opining. He was fantasizing out loud about, well, you could shoot him at the border. Well, we wouldn't do that. I mean, it's not that I want to do it. I'm just saying we could shoot him, but not that I wanted. That would be bad. That would be wrong. But we could. We could.
If you go to a lot of the generals, they will tell you this is a national emergency. We need to defend our country. You have people pouring in. I mean, they are pouring. And now we're capturing these people. We're getting them. But, we don't do like other countries. Other countries stand there with machine guns ready to fire. We can't do that, and I wouldn't want to do that, okay? It's a very effective way of doing it, and I wouldn't want to do it. We can't do it.
It's a very effective way, but I wouldn't want to do it. We can't do it. But, you could get machine guns. A lot of generals say, and we're getting them. You're getting haggard Honduran housewives and their toddlers, and you're fantasizing about shooting them and saying that out loud on the TV. This is pure poison. This is absolute poison for this system. I mean, I in my whole life, I have never heard a president talk this way. In your whole life, you will never hear an attorney general say, well, I got to make sure that there was no spying on Donald Trump. I got to make sure there was no spy. What evidence do you have to even opine out loud that there was spy? You have no evidence. Listen, I'll tell you, the judges on the FISA court, Republican appointees, if they're talking about this stupid FISA warrant that was issued on Carter Page, and this is the spying he's talking about, I would suggest they just release the unredacted FISA applications, plural. And I mean plural because the very first one, and the reason why Carter Page was on their radar screen in the first freaking place is because Carter Page was suspected of being a Russian agent as early as 2013. Had nothing to do with Donald Trump until Donald Trump picked him, of all people, and put him on his list of foreign affairs advisors. And Carter Page is going back and forth to Russia, and he's on the radar screen of the intelligence community since 2013 as being somebody that the Russians had approached to turn against his own country, somebody that they had offered money to in the energy business, okay, as a cover. And we know that that's a very typical cover for spies because the previous administration, before Obama, the Bush administration, Scooter Libby outed Valerie Plame as a non-official cover operative for our country. And Valerie Plame's cover was she was an energy consultant, because that puts you in all the right countries with all the right petrol monarchies. So you can figure out if they're transferring nuclear weapons to each other. You see what I mean about that? So Carter Page was being turned. The Russians had approached him many times and tried to get him to turn. So when he showed up on the Trump campaign and George Papadopoulos was sitting talking to an Australian diplomat saying that he had met with a professor from Malta who told him before any of these WikiLeaks things had been released that they were coming, that the Russians had dirt on Hillary Clinton and that they were going to disseminate that dirt on Hillary Clinton to damage her campaign. When he told an Australian diplomat about that when he was like completely drunk on wine, in vino veritas, right? in wine the truth. So he told, and the Australians came to the Americans and said, okay, this is weird. We just met with a guy who works on the Trump campaign. He's some foreign policy advisor, and he's telling us that and they're going, isn't that interesting? Because he picked another guy, Carter Page, and Carter Page has been, cultivated by the Russians over the years. As early as 2013, he was on our radar screen. And then there were intercepted phone calls from traditional surveillance that we do on Russians in this country, like Sergei Kislyak, the ambassador from Russia. And lo and behold, they capture Mike Flynn on the other end of the phone, and boom, you get a FISA warrant. So the Republicans picked the FISA court, okay? And the FISA warrants were issued by those Republicans on the FISA court. That's number one. Sally Yates signed off on the very first FISA warrant, but those FISA warrants were renewed 3 times while Donald Trump was president. So how is it that Bill Barr isn't sure if there was spying going on? How could he not be sure? Why don't you talk to Michael Horowitz, the Inspector General, who already looked at the entirety of the FBI and the opening of the counterintelligence investigation? Why don't you just go have a little briefing? This is all bizarro world. This is all really, really dangerous, and it's all really strange. Now we find out that the president is telling people in his administration to go ahead and break the law because he will pardon them. He will pardon them. Oh my God. And sitting there and saying, I wish the military could shoot them. I really do. I wish the military could, but they can't. Laura Ingraham is on her TV calling these detention camps for children summer camps. Summer camps. That also came from inside Trump's ICE agents, okay? You have the acting director of ICE, saying, he's talking about treasonous evil perpetrators. He's talking about crimes and criminals and pouring into the country and that they're invading and using the language of a third world dictator. Seriously, dude, this is freaking critical mass. This is really stinking frightening. And so, and you know what else is probably going to happen today? Because it's Friday. I'm guessing. I don't know. I wish I knew. I wish I could tell you for sure, but I don't know. But it does seem to me that today would be a really good day for Bill Barr to dump a redacted Mueller report. Don't you think so? I mean, it would be much better to do it on Monday, after everybody's rested up. But I bet you anything he dumps that document sometime. It's what, 4:28 Eastern. So I'm guessing 5 o'clock. Did you do that? I just want to. You did? Okay. And I want you to. What do you think of our new beautiful studio? Does everybody love it? Nobody has even bothered to call me and tell me. I'm very disappointed in you people. Very disappointed. I love the studio today. Today I think it looks really, really nice. But I mean, this is just freaking freaky is what it is. And then you have the Attorney General refusing to defend the laws with regard to the ACA.
Call in, connect. To speak to Randi, call 561-270-3844. 561-270-3844.
So since more illegal immigrants are rushing the border, more kids are being separated from their parents and temporarily housed in what are essentially summer camps, or as the San Diego Union Tribune described them today, as looking like basically boarding schools.
There are no words for this. There are no words for this. A child is separated from their mother after a traumatic trip, and she's like fine with it. She's like, well, she's fine with her lips. Whatever they did, get your money back. What'd I tell you, Laura? Never ever mess with the lips. Doesn't come out right. Holy crap, man. How do they sit there and how do they sleep at it? Well, she's a wino. But really, honestly, this is just disgusting. This is bizarre. You have a president who's talking about shooting people at the border. Hey, they're separating kids, but you know what? They're going to boarding school. what is it, like the Wizarding School of Harry Potter? These people are lunatic. They are fringy. They are nuts. There's something wrong with them, and they're toxic. They're dangerous. This is just unbelievable. So here's the story that was in the Washington Post last night. This was 11:55 p.m. last night. It was printed. And it says, White House officials have tried to pressure U.S. immigration authorities to release detainees onto the streets of sanctuary cities. Onto the streets where they have no connection to anybody or anything, right? To retaliate against President Trump's political adversaries. You know, somewhere deep in a bunker, scientists, hired by Stephen Miller are trying to create real zombies to unleash on San Francisco and New York City. I mean, this is just a sick story. This is really, really twisted. Trump admitted, check this out because there's something that happened after the story came out last night. It says Trump administration officials have proposed transporting detained immigrants to sanctuary cities at least twice in the past 6 months, once in November as the migrant caravan approached the U.S. southern border, and again in February while the government was shut down. Okay, we had this government shutdown that lasted for 3 weeks, longest government shutdown in the history of the United States. So he wanted Pelosi's district to be targeted, and this is according to emails. There was a November 16th email asking officials at several agencies whether members of the caravan should be arrested at the border and then bused to small and mid-sized sanctuary cities, places where local authorities have refused to hand over illegal immigrants for deportation. The White House told U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement, ICE, that the plan was intended to alleviate a shortage of detention space, but also to send a message to the Democrats. Send a message to the Democrats. Now, last night, when you print a story, journalists call, let's say the story is about DHS or the story is about the White House or the story is about the president's policies. The reporters will call the White House to get a comment. The reporters will call to say, we're going with a story. It's based on an email that we've obtained. Whistleblowers apparently came forward and told us, what your plan was. And we'd like a comment. So the White House spokesman said this last night, quote, this was just a suggestion that was floated and rejected twice, which ended any further discussion, the White House statement said. The extent of this administration's cynicism and cruelty cannot be overstated, said Pelosi's spokesperson. Using human beings, including little children, as pawns in their warped game to perpetuate fear and demonize immigrants is despicable. All right, so you have comments, right? Because that's what journalists do. So Nancy Pelosi is sickened by this, okay, that you would use children as pawns in a retaliatory game to get even with the Speaker of the House because you had a meeting with the senators. Remember that one where Dianne Feinstein was there and Mark Meadows was there and Dianne Feinstein said to Donald Trump, so you would consider a clean DACA bill for the Dreamers? And he said, oh yeah, I think we should do it first. And then, whoa, wait, I don't think you know what you just said, Mr. because he has no idea what he's doing. And he refuses to do anything on DACA now. Now, at one point, he was saying to Dianne Feinstein, yeah, we should do a clean DACA bill. We should get the Dreamers taken care of. And he told the Dreamers, you don't have to worry because I'm Donald Trump. I care about you. I love you. I really love you. And then when they were sitting in the cabinet meeting, which was broadcast, all of a sudden, the Freedom Crackers chimed in and said, oh, no, you don't. Oh, no, you don't. So now he's stuck with no immigration reform bill. This is his fault, okay? He will not do anything on DACA. Why? Because Stephen Miller, this lunatic fringy guy who went to college with the white supremacist Richard Spencer at Duke University, is a white supremacist, and he just hates brown people, and he's never met somebody who came from any. I mean, I guess he would be one of those that hated the Irish too back in the day. that he couldn't deport. He just never met an American that he didn't want to deport to someplace. And Stephen Miller is in charge of the immigration policy. This is a speechwriter, a 33-year-old snot-nosed white supremacist speechwriter, a self-hating Jew who practices authoritarianism and has since college. You know, we had some clips of him in college and high school. And he said, I will do things that no one else would dare to do. I will do stuff that no one else will do, like break the law. This is what he was getting. Anyway, So Donald Trump decided that he would instead scare the American people and cast every immigrant as a killer or a criminal or a rapist or whatever, you know. And now he's saying to his ICE people and his Department of Homeland Security, this is you know, the problem with them that he just fired 5 people at DHS, and now he doesn't have an ICE director because after 30 years, the guy that was the deputy at ICE just put his resignation, and he doesn't want to have anything to do with this guy. And now we know why, because the president told them, go ahead and break the law, and if you go to jail, I'll pardon you. And they were like, we're out. We're out. Whistleblowers came forward, and the whistleblower said Trump thinks he can punish Democrats, including Pelosi, by busing ICE detainees into their district before release. This is 2 DHS whistleblowers who independently reported this to Congress, meaning they hadn't talked to each other. And Stephen Miller was the one who actually discussed this proposal with ICE, according to these 2 whistleblowers. Matt Albence, who was the acting deputy director, he said, as the acting deputy, I was not pressured by anyone at the White House on this issue. I was asked my opinion and provided it, and my advice was heeded, meaning that they took his advice not to break the law. But he's talking about shooting people at the border. He's talking about using the military like a banana republic uses their military. And the only reason why this guy, Al Bence, was against this plan, not because it was unlawful, he said it would create an operational burden, and if somebody got hurt, DHS would, face liabilities, like if there was an accident while we were moving them along the way.
Show is live on RandiRhodes.com and the free Progressive Voices app for Android and iOS. Visit the App Store or ProgressiveVoices.com now.
What's very interesting in your story is to see the guardrails of government kicking in. And so ICE, I mean, this is the agency that has the most frustration. They're the ones that deal with people presenting themselves at the border. They're the ones that have to figure out how to detain them, where to detain them. They're the ones who had to say to the White House, you cannot do this. This won't look good. This will cause us lots of budgetary and PR problems.
PR.
That's exactly right. And one of the people who delivered that message is actually somebody who is pretty close with the White House, somebody that we understand is close with Stephen Miller. His name is Matt Albence, and he is now going to be running ICE. He, at the time, was a deputy director at ICE, a hardliner himself, somebody who is very sympathetic to, the concerns and complaints coming from the White House. But he pushed back on this. Now, he didn't give, a moral or reason saying that, political retribution like this is wrong. His reason was more budget aligned, concerned about spending money moving these migrants, or that one of them would get hurt and it would cause a legal issue. But he also noted a PR problem, specifically in the emails that we reviewed. And it's interesting because this same gentleman, came under scrutiny last summer for sort of comparing family detention to summer camps. So, not someone that Democrats are exactly friends with. This is not somebody that, this is somebody that typically would be aligned with the White House. But even him, he said this is not something we can be doing.
So that's the author of this article on the Washington Post that came out last night. Her name's Rachel Bade, and she did a really good job. And she put the emails that the Washington Post relied on to do this story and the testimony of the whistleblowers into this article. And Al Bence is the one who started the talking point that the kids, they're being separated, but it's like summer camp over here. And then Laura Ingraham says, summer camp, boarding school. That's how in bed these crazy people at Fox are with people that are writing secret emails to saying, hey, I don't have a moral problem with retaliating against Trump's Democratic opponents. I just have a problem with my budget. It's operationally a burden on the budget. We're already strained. And he said, quote, not sure how paying to transport aliens to another location to release them when they can be released on the spot is a justified expenditure. Not to mention the liability should there be an accident along the way. That was his objection to using children and housewives who are fleeing violence in their own countries. That's his objection to using them as pawns. Not that you shouldn't do that. Not that there is no reason. Not that it violates, our laws. There is nothing in our laws that says that you can transport people from the border and dump them on the streets. But the White House wanted to do it. They wanted to release detainees onto the streets of sanctuary cities to retaliate against Donald Trump's enemies, his treasonous enemies, his foes. Because he considers immigrants to be a contagion. So in his mind, he's like doing germ warfare on San Francisco and, Chicago and New York. This really reminds me of giving, blankets filled with smallpox to the Native Americans. I mean, this is the kind of crap that this man thinks about all day. Now he's thinking about, we should shoot them at the border. I mean, it's effective. No, we can't do it. We can't do it. But we should. It's effective. And then after the White House issued this statement to Rachel Bade, who wrote this article last night and posted it at 11:55 last night, Donald Trump, and denying that this was ever something that they were going to, really consider, right? Their statement said, this was just a bunch of people talking, and of course we would never do it, and it died on the vine. We never did anything. But today Trump tweets that he does want to do it. Today he tweets that is what he wants to do. Now the email that went to ICE and to Christian Nielsen at the Department of Homeland Security had the subject line, Sanctuary City Proposal. And it said, quote, the idea has been raised by one or two principals that if we're unable to build sufficient temporary housing, caravan members be bused to small and mid-sized sanctuary cities. There is, and in all caps, not a White House decision on this. And that's what Al Bentz replied to. This is the guy that said, it's like summer camp where we send them, right? And he said, we can't afford to do it. It was all about money and PR and liability if somebody got hurt when we were busing them. And then this came up a second time. One of the whistleblowers inside DHS said, quote, it was retaliation to show them your lack of cooperation has impacts. I think they thought it would put pressure on those communities to understand, I guess, why you need more immigration money for detention beds. The legal advisors at ICE were finally consulted, and they said, we're not even going to complete this formal legal review, okay? We're not even going to, it's inappropriate. There is no legal basis for doing this. They said, if we would have done that, we would have had to expend transportation resources and make a decision that we were going to use buses and planes, etc., to send these aliens to a place for whatever reason. A senior DHS official said, we had to come up with a reason, and we did not have one. And then they said, the idea faded. This is according to Rachel's reporting last night, 11:55. And then today, Trump tweets that he wants to do it. To punish Democrats. Because he thinks that Democrats are treasonous, evil people.
It's lasted a long time. We're glad it's over. It's 100% the way it should have been. I wish it could have gone a lot sooner, a lot quicker. There are a lot of people out there that have done some very, very evil things, very bad things. Evil. I would say treasonous things against our country.
Against us.
And hopefully that people that have done such harm to our country, we've gone through a period of really bad things happening. Those people will certainly be looked at. I've been looking at them for a long time, and I'm saying, why haven't they been looked at? They lied to Congress. Many of them, you know who they are. They've done so many evil things.
He is the evilest of the evil. He is Dr. Evil. This is like a plot in a horror movie, truly. This is just unbelievable. This is a very sick and strange and sociopathic man. And if you don't believe me, here's, Republican ex-Congressman David Jolly.
On most days, this would be the top story because this reflects a certain unmitigated depravity, if you will. And I would suggest a sociopathy. And here's why. Mm-hmm. The president has been telling the American people that these people, those coming from Central America and Mexico, are dangerous. Mm-hmm. These caravans are a threat, that there are members of ISIS embedded in these caravans. If the president and his administration truly believe that, it takes a certain level of sociopathy to then say we're going to deploy these people into U.S. cities to intentionally create crime rates against those who have political adverse positions to the president. That is a sociopathy, and I don't use that word lightly. If the president believes these are criminals, and his top advisor is saying we're going to move these criminals into Nancy Pelosi's district or perhaps into Rahm Emanuel's city for the sole intent of causing crime rates to go up and settling a political vendetta, that's sociopathy.
Yes, and so, this is the kind of, dream that Stephen Miller has in his fevered white supremacist dream state, right, in his REM sleep, and wakes up with an erection. And, Trump did not think of this himself because Trump is such a small brain, okay? But he definitely approved it. He definitely approved it. In Trump's mind, this would have turned places like San Francisco into lawless hellholes. And that was his, plan. That's what he wanted to accomplish. This is a very sick man. I mean, and the only pushback he got from anybody in his administration, from his cabinet members, was that it would be bad PR. Oh, if only somebody had the guts to tell Adolf that the Holocaust would come with incredibly bad optics. No moral objection, just bad optics. And if you would have told Donald Trump, oh, this is illegal, sir, and this is immoral, he would have said, thank you. Thank you. Thank you. I thought of it all myself, because I know what I'm doing. I alone can fix it. Very sick. So the DHS had to come up with a reason to explain to the public why they were doing it, and they couldn't. Why? Because political retribution doesn't sound good?
Mary had a little lamb. The fault. We believe that all men are created equal.
To the magnificent mosaic that is America.
From radio beacon to radio beacon. I have a dream today. Change has come to America.
Believe it. Knock, knock. Who's there?
Hey! That's a figment of your imagination.
Randi Rhodes Show. Turn up your mind.
This was an attempted coup. This was an attempted takedown of a president. And we beat them. What I'm most interested in is getting started. Hopefully the Attorney General, he mentioned it yesterday, he's doing a great job getting started on going back to the origins of exactly where this all started. Because this was an illegal witch hunt. And what they did was treason. What they did was terrible. What they did was against our Constitution and everything we stand for. So hopefully that will happen.
You know, you've got a president who thinks the law does not apply to him. You've got an attorney general who is furthering the unitary executive theory of governance. You have a president who loves calling his adversaries traitors. You've got a president who is in love with Kim Jong-un, who is like the king of a hermit nation, where they all wake up in the morning and they sing songs to the dear leader. And Trump is not going to be happy until that dear leader is him. He wants to shoot people at the border. He's told his DHS and ICE troops that if they end up in jail, he will pardon them. This is a very twisted administration, and it's been the most horrific experience of my life. And I've commented on plenty of presidents in my day. I mean, I guess, I lived through Bill Clinton. The election in 92 was when we first started talking about politics around here. And then, the impeachment of Bill Clinton, which was bogus. And then George W. and the Bush v. Gore and 36 days and the Supreme Court picking our president. I thought that was the straw that would break democracy's back. I thought that was when people would go out into the streets, and that would be when people wouldn't. And then we got attacked. And then the people that attacked us were spirited out of our country late at night. Courtesy of our government, all the bin Ladens, they were taken out of this country so that no harm would come to them. And then we attacked two unarmed nations and created hellholes to add to the hellholes that are already war-torn and damaged on this planet. And I thought that would do. Then we got a new president. And for 5 minutes, we had a Democratic Congress that he could work with. And when he had a Democratic Congress that he could work with, all of a sudden, 22 million people gained health care coverage. All of a sudden, 22 million people could not be denied health care coverage because they had a pre-existing condition. Their children didn't have lifetime caps if they were born with a congenital disease, or if they were born needing a lifetime of care. They could now afford it. All of a sudden, your kids up until the age of 26 could, go to college and still have health insurance and not have to drop out and take a job with some employer that, you paid part, they paid part, so that they could afford to get health. I mean, all of a sudden, all this good stuff happened, and the racism in this country ratcheted up through the ceiling, and Barack Obama became the devil and a secret Muslim, and Donald Trump was the head of the birthers, and he wanted to see his grades, and he wanted to see his birth certificate, and now the only things that we can't see are Donald Trump's grades and Donald Trump's taxes. I don't understand how people can just go there. Without screaming. And now we've got little kids being separated from their parents, and it's on the television, and they're in cages, and the president wants to shoot them at the border, and he says so out loud. He calls, we have an adversarial system that is called checks and balances. It is a divided government. It's what we have. And instead of working with people and saying, okay, let's not let the perfect be the enemy of good. Let's do something on the DACA issue. Let's do something on the bar. Instead, he creates chaos, more and more chaos. He says he doesn't believe in judges. He doesn't want the judges there. He wants a lawless border. He wants to be the king of the lawless border. He wants to be able to shoot people. He wants to be able to beat people. You see ads in the newspapers for people to work at these child care centers where it specifically says that they have to be physically fit enough to restrain an infant or an adolescent, to be able to take them down. I mean, this is like the sickest I've ever seen. Now, all of this is where we are now. It's all a result of the unitary executive. It's all a result of the Citizens United decision, the corruption of our politics. And people, instead of what I'm finding out, with Twitter and the outrage machine that is Twitter, people are not very good with fact management. They're not very good at managing details, and they're not very good at nuanced things. They don't understand the law. They don't understand the difference between a publisher and a hacker with the Julian Assange story. They really don't get it. Now, Julian Assange to me is a disgusting, disgraceful excuse of a person. And they'll say to me, well, shouldn't somebody exploit the war crimes? Small-minded people say that to me, right? Because instead of saying that war itself should be outlawed as a method to solve your problems, that war itself is It's something that Congress, by virtue of our Constitution, is supposed to declare after a deliberative, a recitation of the threat, after a thoughtful consideration of testimony by weapons inspectors who were out there. They were out there, and I know they were out there because they were on my show. Scott Ritter, Hans Blix, all the UAEA, the unscum inspectors, what an unfortunate name that was. They were all out there saying there are no weapons of mass destruction in Iraq ahead of the war. And now people just want to declare war on various cities within the United States like the terrorists that they've always been. I feel so sorry for the people that voted for Trump. Listen, we on this side, we're capable of managing facts, and we're capable of understanding the lawless nature of this administration. We understand now that there is evidence that he had told his cabinet members to go ahead and break the law, and he would pardon them. Okay, and what makes you think that he didn't say the same damn thing to, Michael Cohen or to Manafort or to, he still probably will. Pardon certain people. But I mean, honestly, this man obstructs justice every minute he's awake. He violates the Constitution every second he speaks. He calls his adversaries instead of, negotiating. He's the great negotiator, right? Instead of negotiating with people to fix this problem that we have at the border, which is just one of many problems, instead, he wants to shoot people. It's a sick progression of the Republican theory of the unitary executive, which means a king. A king. It's a very strange time. And I feel really bad for the people that support Trump because they are the ones who were the angriest. Okay? They were the most exploitable. But they also tend to be the people with the least to lose, meaning they only have a small little survival chance. Do you know? I mean, they don't live as long. They live in red states where Medicaid hasn't been expanded, or they live in red states where, there's very little opportunity for them. This president has done nothing for them, and he will not. But you know what he did? He exploited your anger, and the anger that you have is legitimate. People who are angry with the government are legitimate in their anger, but they don't manage facts well, and they don't understand that the reason why the government doesn't provide or produce or show up for you in any meaningful way anymore is because it's been purchased by corporate interests. And that comes first, second, and third. And instead of supporting Democrats who put and passed a bill on the floor called H.R. 1, the For the People Act, that takes the money out of politics, that actually creates a system of voting that is convenient, that does a whole lot of things for people to have a bigger, better, badder-ass voice. They side with a guy who wants to kill them. They side with a guy who literally is destroying the little way of life they have left. And what's going to happen to them is always tragic. It's like when George Bush watched the economy crash on his watch. Those people got hurt the worst. It was a depression.
All things Randi at RandiRhodes.com.
Go for launch.
Speaking truth to power, the Randi Rhodes Show.
All right, everybody. So, obviously, the look of our studio is changing, and I just need to thank you very much for helping us accomplish this. It's been, done in dribs and drabs. And the other thing you may have noticed is that we are on a different clock. That means instead of 3 breaks an hour, we now do 4 breaks an hour, and that's because we're on a network clock. There will be an explanation of why we're on a network clock. As soon as I'm allowed to tell you, I will tell you. You would think that people would want me to tell you, that they would want the information to be disseminated, but whatever. So because the podcast is a little shorter now, the paid podcast is a little shorter now. We've decided to partner with Stephanie Miller's Sexy Liberal podcast network. And we are going to give you an extra podcast. And this one's free. This one's free because listening to the show live is free. And people feel like the show is shorter now. And it is a little shorter. About four minutes an hour shorter. So what we decided to do was partner with Steph. She invited us to, piggyback onto her efforts at the Sexy Liberal Podcast Network that they started with John Fugelsang and Dino Badala and me and her and a whole bunch, and give away a free after hours podcast on Friday night. So tonight is my night to post our free after hours podcast. And so what we will do is we will upload the paid podcast for all the subscribers so that you don't have to wait. And then once you're all taken care of, then we'll record the Randi Rhodes After Hours podcast for people to listen to for free. You can get that on iTunes, Apple, wherever you get your podcasts, you can get it. Okay, you can get it for free. The other thing is, we know that we weren't on the Progressive Voices app today. It's gone. Is it gone now? Yes, it's gone again. So can I just tell people who listen to us on TuneIn, the Progressive Voices TuneIn channel, I have my own TuneIn channel. If you just put Randi Rhodes into TuneIn, your app TuneIn, it'll take you to my feed. And my feed's up. My feed's always up. So you can always go there. And the cool thing about it is that today is Friday. You can also then listen to the Randi Rhodes After Hours podcast right there. So that would be good for you to do right now if you use iTunes, to just put Randi Rhodes, go to my TuneIn channel and stay there. Apparently some plane crashed into Progressive Voices server farm. I'll just let it lay out there like that. Okay. All right. Nick in Florida.
Wow, that's all I needed was that unexpected line before. First time caller here.
Whoa.
So I've been listening to you kind of off and off since WIOD, so it's been a long time. And welcome back to the network clock. It seemed odd for the breaks. Anyway, get right to the question I had for you. I know we can vote. I get that. Mm-hmm. I'm in northern Florida. You look at that little island we're Gainesville in, while I'm in the big sea of red to the west.
Right.
What can someone like me do, other than talking to people other than the blue in the face that won't listen, to try and make any changes, at least locally? Because, of course, any other big changes, you'd have people sharpening pitchforks, but, we're a democracy here, so we need to work that way.
Tell them to listen to me.
What do we do?
Tell them to listen to me.
That is definitely a good idea.
Yeah, there was an article the other day, and it was really, really good. I think Tom Hartman was talking about it, about how Fox is poisoning people. I mean, literally, it's poison. And
I've deleted the channel from my mother's television. I tried to anyway.
Right, and how it's literally splitting up families, and people are so addicted to it that they would rather not talk to their own family, their own children, just to keep the straight to the vein poison pumping into their veins via that cable news channel. So,
yes.
What you could suggest to them is to imbibe, to take in some alternative, because for them the facts are going to be an alternative universe. So you should ask them to, just listen to people like me. They're free to call in. They can argue with me. You know that I put hostile callers in front of everybody else because I don't want them to chicken out and go away. And they could follow, they could watch MSNBC for a week. They could watch CNN for a week. Okay. And see what's really, going on and how it doesn't fit into their narrative. And then they could ask themselves, why is that?
You want to know the kicker of things out here, and I don't know if this is countrywide, but at least it is locally within, the northern part of the state. There's some franchisee, I guess, of Burger King. Every Burger King you go into, Fox News is playing on the television in the dining room, and that has infuriated me more than anything else because it's the first time you kind of see open propaganda in a place where nobody can control it without their remote.
I know,
or without,
but just to be fair, just to be fair, people say that about the airports and CNN. Those are contracts. Those are actually contracts.
That is okay. Yeah. I hope that is the case. I remember CNN TV and stuff, and they shut it off on. Yeah.
But if you go to an airport,
you're
welcome. And if you go to an airport, typically you're going to see CNN because that's a contract. It's just business, is what it is. But this Fox thing is so bogus. It's poison, and it's not because I disagree. I don't disagree. It's not real. How do you disagree with fantasy? How do you disagree with the babies are in summer camp? I mean, there's no disagreement with the babies are in summer camp when they're in cages. You don't disagree with that. You actually have to try and deprogram a person who believes such a thing. That is a different issue. That is a completely different, thing. To tell somebody that the babies are in summer camp isn't something that you can debate. Right? So people need to be deprogrammed. Word of mouth has always worked for me. All these years I've been in radio, not one single radio station or conglomerate or whatever has ever advertised on behalf of this show. You've never seen one TV commercial in your life for us. You've never seen one billboard for us. Maybe in West Palm Beach for 5 minutes there was one right ahead of the war. I was so incensed about going into Iraq that I actually I sat literally in a chair screaming at Clear Channel, screaming at them that this had to be stopped, that this war had to be stopped. And I would not come to work unless they put a billboard up. And they put one billboard up on I-95. And it was a picture of our troops in gas masks. And it said, "We need to talk." And after they put that billboard up, I got to tell you, my show went to #1. Okay, in the local market, because it was just a local show. And they were like beside themselves. Oh, gee, advertising works. And people's minds got changed from supporting a war they didn't understand, that something inside them told them, what I'm hearing doesn't make sense, because they were listening to the weapons inspectors, and they were listening to the IAEA. They were listening to Hans Blix do interviews with me. They were listening to Scott Ritter do interviews with me, et cetera, et cetera. And yes, you could change minds, but people need to be deprogrammed from an ideology that says that Democrats are committing treason somehow, and that Trump is the one that follows the law, and he's the truth teller, and the babies are in summer camp.
Call in, connect. To speak to Randi, call 561-270-3844. 561-270-3844.
WikiLeaks. I love WikiLeaks. The Hillary Clinton documents released today by WikiLeaks.
We don't talk about WikiLeaks.
They want to distract us from WikiLeaks. WikiLeaks. They've got to start talking about WikiLeaks. WikiLeaks just actually came out. The wonder of WikiLeaks. Oh, we love WikiLeaks. Boy, they have really... WikiLeaks. They have revealed a lot. WikiLeaks. The WikiLeaks revelations. WikiLeaks is fascinating. Did you see another one? Another one came in today. This WikiLeaks is like a treasure trove. That came out on WikiLeaks. They got it all down, folks. WikiLeaks.
Do you still love WikiLeaks?
I know nothing about WikiLeaks. It's not my thing. And I know there is something having to do with Julian Assange. I've been seeing what's happened with Assange, and that will be a determination, I would imagine, mostly by the Attorney General, who's doing an excellent job. So he'll be making a determination. I know nothing really about him. It's not my deal in life.
What? Now, how do people watch Fox News, which has really changed the O to a U, and that's what it does to the news? How do people watch that and say, "Oh, okay"? I mean, how? Because their brains are full of toxic, toxic poisonous swill. It's so unbelievable. I mean, I can't even imagine. Can you imagine if Barack Obama was relying on some foreign entity that was, producing Russian-gotten hacked material and putting it out about, George Bush or whatever, putting it out about Hillary Clinton, and then after he was campaigning for a year and a half, saying WikiLeaks, being interviewed after finding out that WikiLeaks is literally a Russian asset, okay? Say, I don't know anything about it. It's not my thing. Can you imagine, what would be going on and people are just poisoned. They are literally poisoned. And the thing that's poisoning them is disinformation, misinformation, and their own anger. And you're right to be angry with your government. We need a government. I'm so sorry. But, you need a common currency, and you need roads, and you need bridges, and you need, public schools. You need a military. Sorry, but you do. And as much as the Republicans keep screaming, Social Security is broke, nobody's ever missed a Social Security check. And since the inception of Social Security, as much as people, Medicare, I hate Medicare, nobody's willing to give it up, and nobody's ever been denied Medicare once they're 65. So, these things work, and they're good. And a lot of people depend on them. If you stop the Social Security disability payments, the whole South would starve. Okay, you know that, right? And they're mad at their government. Okay, I get it. That's because your government is corrupted by money. And the only people that do any talking about this, and the only people that put it in writing, and the only people that pass legislation to get the money out happen to be Democrats. That's just a fact. Go look up H.R. 1, the For the People Act. Go look at, what 98% of the American people were for, and that's registering a gun. Okay? A background check. You register your gun, you license your gun, you insure yourself. We didn't even go that far. All they did was, do a background check bill, pass the House, Senate won't take it up. Who the hell does Mitch McConnell think he is? That man's got more power than anybody in this country, and he is the impediment to progress. It's a man who held a Supreme Court seat open, and now we got a guy whose moral character I question to this minute. You got states that are, instead of solving the problem of bringing companies in or of training a workforce that's very attractive to, green energy companies, which is going to be the industry of the future, or training people to be, code writers, which is, the industry of today. Instead of that, they agitate the, old coal miners. They agitate them by telling them they're going to bring back coal, which will never happen because it's just not cost effective. And guess what? Corporations are all about profit. And if it's not cost effective, and if natural gas is cheaper, that's never going to happen. It's just a fact. It's just a fact. And instead of the governors working on getting a healthy, workforce, getting Medicaid expanded, getting people, dental care, getting people, to the doctor before they die, right? We got kitty litter that actually could tell you that your cat's got some sort of a TIA, what do you call it? What do you call those things? The infection that makes you pee. Urinary tract infection. UTI? Yeah. UTI, that's it. You can tell I haven't had sex in a while.
I don't know anything about it, Randy. I just got
lucky. Yeah. Isn't that funny? No, but I mean, you got Kitty Little tell you that Hi, Brett. Look, there's my boys. You got to fix your camera.
I tried to get a little big for my britches on the third shot there.
Well, put that shot up and I'll show you something while we're doing it.
Show us.
See, it's very cloudy. It's very cloudy.
Yeah, we were working on it earlier, and we're trying to get that little fuzz effect out of it. More growing pains.
Well, you're adorable. Look how cute you guys. But anyway, so, why can't we get health care to the South, where life expectancy is falling? Because they don't have... I just don't... So instead of doing that, you know what they're doing in the States? They're passing these heartbeat bills. Now, let me just tell you this. every state that has passed a heartbeat bill has been challenged in courts, and the courts have ruled it's against the Constitution. The heartbeat bills are not passing constitutional muster. Why? Because Roe v. Wade talks about viability. And viability is 24 to 28 weeks. That is the law of the land. So all these stupid heartbeat bills, they fail. They fail repeatedly. And they will continue to fail. Although this is what governors are selling to people in the Deep South. This is what governors are selling to people whose soybeans rotted in the silo because you got an idiot president that declared a trade war on your crops. Holy crap, man. See, this is what I don't get. Now, I do get that it's hard to admit you were wrong. But if you do, I promise you, I will call you a real man. I will let you nestle in my armpit. I will love on you if you just admit that you're wrong. I watched people do all that after the Iraq War. I mean, people were so into it. And then we talked about it, and I told them what was going to happen, and then they started seeing it happen, and maybe at the tail end, they finally came around. But I told you because I can manage facts. Even in the poisoned brain, I can find a way in. Now, if your governor is like a Mike DeWine and he thinks that the most important thing that Ohio needs is not the auto plant, but it's a heartbeat bill, you better vote the other way.
This is the Randi Rhodes Show. To speak with Randi, dial 561-270-3844. That's 561-270-3844.
Thank you, Duffy. Thank you. All right. Larry in California.
Hey, Randi. How you doing?
Hi, Larry.
Hey, listen, I owe you an apology.
For?
Start off. Well, I told you I was going to send a package out to you, and I didn't. But when you're done with your show, I've got a whole package here with a sampler pack of different biscottis. I've got some barbecue sauce, so even if you're going to have brisket at your Seder, you could even put it on top of the brisket.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm sending you your chocolate balls.
Oh! All right. Oh, I can't wait. Thank you, Larry.
It's coming by priority mail. I'm sending it to your post office box. Is that where I should send it?
Yeah, that's fine. Howard will pick it up.
All right. And it'll be in time for your Seder, so everybody can just enjoy.
I'm making matzah crack is what I'm making.
Yeah, I'm also making matzo ball soup for my family.
Howard makes a matzah meal pear tart. That's pretty damn delicious. But
that sounds interesting.
Yeah, but I do the matzah crack. You know how you make the toffee with the butter and the sugar, and then you pour that on the matzah, and then on top of it, you put the chocolate chips, and you let them melt, and then you schmear. And you get the most delicious, it's like a kosher Heath bar. It's so good.
Oh, I didn't know you had so much talent.
Oh, yeah. Oh. That's why you need to listen to the After Hours podcast, because there you will find that we explore my hidden talents, which are, many.
I'm sure. So I wanted to say something about this Stephen Miller jerk. He went to a shul in Santa Monica. For some of those who don't know what a shul is, it's a synagogue.
Right.
And his rabbi was a childhood friend of mine.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Is there something wrong with
that? Rabbi admonished him on national TV on CNN.
Oh, I remember that.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so did his uncle. His uncle also went on CNN and said that what Stephen Miller is practicing and what Stephen Miller advocates and the words that he says and the things he repeats that come directly from white supremacist ideology it's the family can't freaking deal with it. And this is what is happening to families all over this country with the poison and the spew that comes out of, Fox News and, Jeanine Pirro and Tucker Carlson. I mean, people say, but he's Jewish. Yes, but here's my definition of a white supremacist. If you repeat white supremacist ideology, if you consistently, admire nationalist, philosophy, if you are, into shooting people on your border or behaving lawlessly, and you keep on advocating for things you could read on Stormfront, then I don't care what color you are and I don't care what religion you are a white supremacist.
Exactly. He is that. And just to say one other thing about him, I don't consider him a Jew. And the reason why I don't is because he doesn't live up to the Jewish ideology around peace, around loving. And we've been through so much discrimination ourselves and through our lives. I've experienced discrimination when I was a child. I'm 68 now, but when I was a kid, I used to get it. So we've all experienced it in one way or another. And when you've experienced it, you shouldn't want to put that on somebody else.
Well,
he's a disgrace.
I honestly don't know how anybody could stand with Donald Trump after Donald Trump tweeted out Hillary Clinton with a five-sided star in money, or says that George Soros in the coded language of the white supremacists was causing the caravans, organizing the caravans, all this stuff. I mean, what is it about Trump that Stephen Miller finds so sexy? What is it about him? I mean, the guy is obviously preaching anti-Semitic stuff. After Charlottesville, when there were people with tiki torches screaming, "Jews will not replace us," these people defended them. And Stephen Miller just stays there. He just stays there.
Well, he's like Trump. He's a narcissist, and he wants to get in the limelight and get all that attention. Whether it's negative attention, it doesn't matter.
You know what it is? It's power. And power literally poisons people. It corrupts them. It makes them, say yes to things that morally and prior to being next to power or near power or close to power or having power would never do. That's why I keep telling people to write down, make a list of things of who you are, what your character is, and things that you would never do, right?
Well, the other thing I understand is he's got relatives that were from our Holocaust survivors.
There's a lot of
That's even more shocking.
Michael Cohen, Felix Sater, I mean, they're all people who fled to come here. Their parents fled to come here, and they fled pogroms, and they fled, anti-Semitism. I remember growing up, my mom was very active in Russian Jewry, right? And it was bringing the people who were being persecuted in Russia for being Jewish over to the United States as quick as we could. And now you've got these same recipients of that kind of effort standing next to an anti-Semite.
You know what I warned my mom of several years back? Several years back, I warned my mother that, Ma, they're going to come after us next. And guess what? Bingo! We're here.
Well, everything old is new again. And it sucks that people forget to remember. And you need to remember not to forget.
Right. I always tell people, you can forgive, but don't forget.
That's why I have that commercial that I made. You see these videos, I make them myself. So there's this one with the guy with the gun, right? You know that one? That's why it's there. It's there. It's that poem, okay? They came for the labor work. I wasn't a unionist, so I said nothing. They came for Episcopal. I wasn't Episcopal. That's where we are.
Well, it's interesting, that one you just said, they came for the union workers. Hitler went after the union workers, and now Trump is going after the Democrats in the same way.
Listen, everything old is new again, like I said. But this man is so willing to break the law, and it's all a result of people telling him, David Addington and Dick Cheney's crowd, all these people telling people in power that there is such a thing as a unitary executive, that there is no law to hold a president accountable under. Now, that is just ridiculous, because that gives rise to a murdering dictator and no way to check it. It makes no sense that people would be for this.
How about what Bannon's doing? Now he's attacking the Pope.
Oh, Bannon is a very sick man. I mean,
they all are.
They are. Their brains, they're poison. Well, send me your stuff. Oh, I'm very excited.
Woo!
Listen, if you don't know, Larry is like the most amazing baker. He bakes like these little chocolate rum balls. Oh my God. And I don't eat carbs, but I will eat those. And biscottis. Oh, and what else did he say? And he makes his own barbecue sauce. That is so unbelievable. I wish I had a better distribution thing, because then I would sell it. I would really sell it, because it's unfreaking believable how good his stuff is. Bruno in New York.
Randy.
Bruno.
It's not biscottis. It's not biscottis. It's called biscuit.
Biscuit.
Just so you know.
Got it.
Now, I'm going to do a little bit of a tease because I'm going to tell you how we get rid of Mr. Goebbels, Stephen Miller. But first, I want to go back. You know, years ago, you're well known for your, they love the fetus and hate the child.
Yes.
But the other thing that you said years ago was that, and it was when Alberto Gonzalez was being removed as Attorney General, you pointed out that the Republicans have no shortage of sociopaths to replace the ones that they get rid of. And I'm telling you, that's what we're looking at right now.
Oh, there's no question.
We're looking at Barr.
Yep.
We're looking at Mnuchin.
Right.
We're looking at that other Mr. Clean-looking piece of shit. I'm sorry, Whitaker. And these people are sociopaths who will do whatever this man wants them to do. And one of your callers talked about how does he talk to people who are, Trump supporters. Tell them the following. These people have no ears, and facts don't matter. So, seriously, we really have to galvanize around who we are and not turn on each other in terms of whether we have this guy as president or this woman as president, but understand really who the enemy is.
Well, the enemy is disinformation. Okay, that's where you start. The enemy is propaganda. Okay, the enemy is disinformation. The enemy, it's like George Orwell. It's newspeak. It's doublespeak. War is peace. Freedom is slavery. Up is down. Left is right. Do you know what I mean?
And
the disinformation that people are exposed to is literally disorienting.
Well, it's that, Randy, and the other thing that we need
I think the dump button worked, everybody. I think it did. We installed the dump button, and you said the S word, and I dumped you, and now my light, it dumped it, and now it's all,
right.
it's all built back again. Up. Yeah. So that worked. I think all in all, this was a good. We started all a little glitchy on Monday. Okay, there was a brand new set of equipment, a brand new TriCaster. $23,000 is what that was. Please do give till it hurts. Thank you, and then stay tuned for the Randi Rhodes After Hours podcast. That's free, and that is available anywhere you get your podcasts. Okay, iTunes, app, tune in, etc., and have a great weekend.
To speak to Randy, call now, you bastards. 561-270-3844.
Hello.
Randi Rhodes, Air Force.
I'm David Pakman, host of The David Pakman Show on the Progressive Voices channel. Check out this clip from my show.
617-830-4750. Let's go next to Thomas. Thomas, who we've heard from before. What's going on, Thomas?
David. Thanks for having me.
Yeah.
I was watching some of the hearing yesterday about the rise of white nationalism in the United States. And
yep.
I felt really bad for some of the people there who had actual concerns, and they had to take a backseat to Candace Owens's asinine statements.
Disgusting.
And I know. Here's the thing that I've been noticing about her supporters, though. They seem to sort of not understand the grasp that nationalism can be radicalized to where it can hurt other people. They seem to think that, like, once a leader who's nationalistic decides to hurt his or her own citizens, then it stops becoming nationalism. Which
well, listen,
they're just...
the problem is even bigger than that, honestly, Tom. I mean, you're pointing out something that's true, which is there's a lack of understanding about when we're talking people. There are people who benignly put nationalism in the same camp as sort of just like being patriotic, and as you're pointing out, that's just not accurate. And if you truly understand what nationalism is and how it can be weaponized, you wouldn't be playing so coy with it. Not you, Thomas, I mean, but the people who are. But the fact that the most important discussions that should be had didn't happen really at those hearings, at least in part because of people like Candace Owens. I mean, it's disgusting, and I congratulate Congressman Ted Lieu for playing her Hitler comment during the testimony. I think that was absolutely brilliant.
Speaking of that, I see people like saying like, "Oh, you took her out of context or whatever." and they share this meme with like
Buy a stinking podcast.